everyone, and welcome to our latest Retail ThinkTank brainstorming session. I'm Alicia Esposito, Director of Content and New Media for Retail Touchpoints, and I have joining me today Gary Ballabio, who is the Vice President of Technology Partnerships at Cloudinary. Gary, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me be here, Alicia. Thank you.
Well, Gary, I'm really excited to have you on the line today because we're going to be digging into some new trends in content and in social commerce. Obviously, the foundation of all of this is over the past 18 months or so, people have been spending more time and, of course, money online, that rapid rise of e-commerce that everyone's talking about. But let's get to the heart of the consumer. What are you seeing or hearing from a consumer research standpoint in terms of what they want? Because they're not just going to a retailer site anymore, right? They're going between marketplaces, social networks. They're kind of hopping all over the place. So are there any overlapping themes or trends there?
Yes, so there's definitely a lot of overlapping themes and trends, and the acceleration to the online presence, the digital transformation campaigns. It's been amazing the last year or so because of the pandemic. But the consumers' needs, the consumers' wants, I would say, haven't really changed that much. I think there's a lot more brands out there who are accelerating, this transition, or learning it and seeing it and understanding it. Um, Here's how I like to break it down. So the first thing to keep in mind is about fast. So that's the first word I would use. So they want to learn things quickly. They want to learn things as easily as possible. And so it's really important for brands to create content that have key messages embedded in that content so that the end user can pick it up in a very short period of time. The next thing is, again, speed. So it's all about how quickly the end user can be able to browse around a website. There's a great stat out there from some research that Google has done before that 40% of consumers will abandon a web page if it doesn't load within 3 seconds. And so you have to maintain that across any type of experience you're trying to provide to the end user. And then another important piece is the relevancy of the content. Users just get frustrated when they're presented with material that's not what they're looking for. It's not what they're interested in at all. So it's really important for it to be relevant. And then the last piece that's really important is visual content and how visual the whole experience is. Consumers want highly engaging, they want interactive, rich media on anything that they're interacting with. So this comes into play with video, say, for example. From a conversion standpoint, there's been studies out there. This is Invisia was one study that video increases conversions by 80%. And that a simple demo video and a very short demo video can almost double the likelihood that somebody will purchase as compared to a non-viewer of a demo video. And another interesting stat is that Forbes says 90% of consumers say that video helps them make a buying decision, and that 64% of them say that the video itself makes them more likely to buy. And this is important information from a business standpoint, but it's also because of some biological elements, the way our brains work. 80% of all the information that we, take in our brains process is visual. That's just due to the dominance of, human sight, basically. And correlated to that is that 80% of all elements that a consumer retains, the average consumer retains 80% of everything that they see, and only 20% of what they read, right? So the visual components are very important, to the whole experience, and also driving the business results that you're looking for from that experience. And so, all these elements, are coming together, but that's why I say that the needs haven't really changed. We're talking about, wants and needs that are biologically embedded, in our bodies, the way we process things, the way we process imagery. And that's quite important, when you're, trying to create these experiences online.
Yeah, it's interesting to see and hear how our innate behaviors or innate needs at a biological level impact the decisions of brands and marketers. I mean, that's what drives impactful brand marketing, in my opinion. So you've mentioned the role of content, the importance of content, mentioned video a few times. So would you say that, brands and retailers are taking these insights into consideration, they're investing in content, and if so, how? Like what actual applications are really rising to the top right now?
Absolutely. So it's certainly being taken into account in a very dramatic way. And I think if you take a look at examples like Airbnb, if you take a look at Nike or Adidas or other major online commerce providers, you'll see that the experience is very visually rich. And if you compare the experience, if you compare a web page of one of theirs today versus say 3 to 5 years ago, you'll see a major difference in the visual media that's presented on those pages. And so you'll see things like rich images embedded. You'll see embedded video. You'll see basically content that helps the user's experience. What the product is really like that the site is trying to promote or trying to sell, basically. And it's not only just on their home pages, you'll see it on product detail pages as well, where video is incorporated into the product gallery for a lot of these products that are sold online. And the goal, I would say, is really about bringing these in-store experiences and making them come to life online. So leveraging the latest formats, the latest technologies that help you do that. So that would be things like 3D, 360 video, spinners, right, to really help with that experience. Again, about driving that in-store experience, but online. And also just being able to customize that experience as well, incorporating customization aspects, personalization aspects into that content. But you'll see, a lot of brands, they're taking these highly rich, highly engaging photos and videos, high resolution photos, and even upraising them, even being able to help you zoom in on it, to really help you see the fabric, to see the smoothness of the fabric or the stitching that's involved. So all of that is being incorporated, and it's really important for for that end user experience. And again, because so much is happening online, and they're not necessarily going into the store anymore, and you want to make sure that what they buy, you're setting the right expectations, and they're not returning it, right? That they're getting it, and that they're
Yeah.
happy with the result, and you set the right expectations for them.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know online return rates have always been a big issue for retailers because there's that, I don't want to say lack of context, but it's not as rich, right? As if you were to go into the store, touch a product, try it on, see how, the dress swings on your body or falls on your body, like that's like that context that's sometimes missing. So you talked a bit about a few of the on-site experiences and opportunities, and I'm glad you got into 3D a little bit. We're seeing a lot of great progress with like try-on technology that's virtual, and you can kind of see it in context, which at the end of the day is content. But what about beyond the e-commerce site? We've been hearing so much about new progress in social commerce. I mean, how do you kind of see the time, effort, and money spent on, that content creation beyond the e-commerce site shaking out right now?
Sure. So first of all, it's important just to reiterate, one of the points that I mentioned earlier, that demo video can almost double the likelihood of a purchase decision by a non-viewer, right? So, and there's also another important point that nearly 2/3 of all consumers prefer to watch a video that's less than 60 seconds long. And you kind of see a corollary there to the experiences that social networks or social platforms are providing. Like Instagram and like TikTok. Consumers are getting very used to short but highly engaging videos, very likely without sound even, right? So it's really on the brand to be able to communicate their message in a very short period of time, and maybe even knowing that the end user may not have their sound on. They may not be listening, to whatever voice overlay or something is being provided in that video. So they may want to incorporate things like overlaying text onto the video, incorporating the use of subtitles as well for for the end users who may be watching it. That's also an important accessibility feature as well, which is another important, making sure that your content's available to everybody who may be visiting the website, and just making sure that those key messages are being brought out there as fast as possible, right? Just like what we said earlier, they want quick, they want crisp messages. And then layering on top of that are techniques, to increase, the likelihood that they will watch the video. So doing things like, even for a demo, for a very short 60-second demo, having a highlight reel, for that video. So when you're scrolling on the page and the demo video comes up, you could see bits of it and you say, oh, interesting. They're going through exactly the parts of how to install it or how to use the product. And it will intrigue them to click on the video and then watch the full video. And then, of course, that ties in to users who watch demos now are more likely to buy, right? So that's a very important kind of like element to try to embed. And then, when you think about like the brand influencers who are on YouTube or they're on Instagram and other social platforms, like we mentioned, they're helping drive awareness, for the sites that are that are trying to sell the different products. They're also driving conversions. But what's also happening is a one-to-one promotion. So the influencers are a one-to-many promotion. So you could pay for an influencer to talk about your product, demonstrate your product. But what's also happening is you have friends and you have people who see a product and they think about, a friend of theirs who might really enjoy, some sort of product, or, whether it be a dress, whether it be shoes or camping equipment, whatever it might be, something that they might need. And they'll send this one-to-one message, which is highly influential to the buying decision and the purchase decision for a consumer. And so, brands, they need to be able to take that into account, that they're taking this website, maybe a video, and it's going to be embedded in a messenger message or a WhatsApp message or whatnot. And this is where technologies like micro browsers are coming into play as well, where you want to be able to cater the content, not just necessarily for your website, not necessarily even for the social network, but also for that one-to-one interaction as well. And there's elements that you really want to employ there to make sure that the content is highly optimized for that type of experience as well. And that also ties in a little bit to other activities like email campaigns or other SMS campaigns as well, where you may have more real estate to be able to describe the product or show a video, but it's different. These micro browsers or these messages, again, it's key message in a very, very small amount of real estate in a very quick period of time, again, but enticing them to click on it to want to learn more. So there's a lot that they're learning and picking up from these other experiences that they're then applying to the core content that they're providing on their website.
Oh, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see and hear how everything kind of interconnects to each other and how there
Yeah.
needs to be that consistency, but each piece of content needs to be unique and compelling on its own. You did bring up, obviously, branded content, which we've been talking about, influencers a little bit, but then there's also this broader notion of user generated content as well, which is like everyday consumers just sharing content of their new purchase, them, creating a new makeup look, for example, showing how they put outfits together. That's valuable content that brands can use too. So how are you seeing priorities, or I guess even investments, shake out as far as like branded content versus UGC, and how are they all kind of coming together?
Sure. So in terms of how they're all coming together. So a lot of what we're seeing is that branded content is evolving to provide similar experiences to that of the social media channels. So short, crisp messages and videos that really get to the point of what they're trying to promote. And the same is that same content can then be reused on the social channel. So you may be creating it, say, for Instagram, but you can use it on your website and vice versa. So you're trying to provide that experience on your website or in your application, and then you're also using it through the social channels as well, right? So it's similar. But from a UGC standpoint, UGC is incredibly important. And I think this is a point that not a lot of brands are picking up on. Maybe some of the more sophisticated brands are really started to pick up on this. But across all industries, there's studies out there that show that people who look at UGC are converting, they're almost 2 times more than those that are not looking at UGC. Of course, there's UGC, it's just highly influential content. And collecting and incorporating that content can be influential to the buying decision, even to the whole experience that the brand is trying to provide on their website. And it could be like a broad basis content in terms of the influencers, or even on a micro market basis. And I think about fans of certain sport teams wearing the same shirt or the same hat, as the players are wearing on the field. They want that type of experience. They want that same shirt, right? Just like just like their favorite player is wearing, right? Or even seeing others at the game, others in the stands wearing a certain hat or something. And again, they want that type of experience, and so they want the same apparel that they're wearing as well. Seeing somebody around town or whatever it might be just drives the interest and just helps lead to a sale. So there are many ways to leverage this content, and we're definitely seeing brands incorporate UGC onto their website to help with the purchase decisions, to help with the influence of consumers actually making that purchase and that buying decision.
Yeah, super cool when you talk about reusing and repurposing that content and blending it with the branded content that's being created. But I can't help but think about the complexities of it all, right? Like UGC, super powerful, super valuable. Like you said, it kind of helps cultivate that community. It helps show the products in a more authentic context, I guess you could say. But I could imagine it's a lot of work for brands to kind of comb through all of that and figure out what to do, right? So can we kind of unpack those complexities, what brands and retailers maybe need to prepare for or think through if they want to integrate it into their content strategy?
Sure. So there's definitely a lot of challenges when you're collecting content from end users all over the world, and you're trying to incorporate that into your own site content. So there's a lot of processes and workflows that you need to set up around that. The first major process that comes to mind is moderation. So one, you need to make sure that content is being uploaded is not offensive, and of course that might be what's important there from a moderation standpoint is that not everything is necessarily offensive in different countries. It may be that what's offensive in the US is not really that offensive in Brazil or in France, say, for example. So you really need to take these considerations into account when you're collecting it and then presenting it to the end user. But you do need to review the content before you publish it online. So that's one thing. Another thing is around normalizing the content. So making sure that it's centered, it's cropped correctly, because you're dealing with the users on their phones. Who knows what's going on when they're taking that photo? It may not look the best, right? So having a process to be able to recrop it, or maybe put it into a format that's more usable, on the internet. These are also things that you want to automate. The next consideration is around security, right? So you want to make sure that there isn't a vector, some sort of way that somebody can upload something into your systems, that can really steal information, or get a bad guy, into your system, and worse, affect your consumers who are coming to your site as well. I mean, that would be pretty detrimental. So security is a very important consideration and something to be thinking about. And then, of course, there's global scale. So like I said earlier, you're trying to collect this content from end users everywhere, all over the world. And that experience of upload, that experience of even the download and viewing of that content has to be fast. And it just has to be available. It just has to work whenever they want to do it, no matter what time of, what day it is or what time of day it is as well. And then the last thing to really think about, that I think about, maybe not the last thing, maybe there's more, but what I think about is just in terms of the legal aspects, making sure that you have the rights to use the content that's been uploaded. If there's other people in that content, making sure that their faces are blurred out from that content. This is a very important consideration, and you need to make sure that you're explicitly getting that approval, from the owner of the content. And if there is a problem, that you're able to take that content down quickly. That can happen as well. You just got to be able to prepare for it. So those are the things that I think about in terms of UGC. It's very possible to incorporate it. A lot of brands are incorporating it, but you do have to keep in mind, all these considerations as well.
Yeah. A lot of checks and balances to go through. I actually never thought about that security point. That's a very interesting one that I'm sure, everyone thinks about moderation, brand safety, compliance, but I think that
Yeah.
that security piece is probably going to come more to the forefront as these different platforms,
Yeah.
get a bit more mature.
Yeah. That's not one you want to learn the hard way, Alicia. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
I could imagine. I could
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
So branded content, UGC, it all comes together to create this really powerful content arsenal for brands and retailers to use across all channels. I really love seeing how that comes to life for a lot of different brands across different categories. But I'm curious, how does personalization come into play here? Because I know that, you can do it at the product level. You can show different UGC and branded content for, say, a color of lipstick, right? But how do you tailor it, if you can, if it's even possible, to specific consumers based on their behaviors or what they're looking for? Is that possible?
Yeah. So customization and personalization is so important, and we see a lot of brands incorporating this into their pages, whether it be for an actual personalized product where you're uploading an image or some sort of logo to embed on a shirt, on a jacket, or whatever it is that you're selling. But also, I mean, from a personalization standpoint, and I think when you think about an overall e-commerce website standpoint, there's certainly these experiences that brands drive today where they're making those personalized recommendations based on interests that the end user is expressing at the moment, or based on past purchase decisions, what might be relevant and what might be appealing to them. So those two elements are very important, making sure that it is relevant, making sure that it is appealing to them, just along their journey of their purchase decision, basically. And if you think about services like a Stitch Fix, or if you think about a service like a Nordstrom Trunk Club, where they're pulling together, their whole experience is about personalization, and about tailoring to the interests and the likes of that buyer. And pulling together, so in their case, it's pulling together actual, a box of clothes, right? That basically they may be interested in buying. But in terms of generating the content specifically for that end user, or even a group of end users where you're customizing it a bit more. You're driving experiences, and you're creating the content that would be valuable to them. And you're taking things like different photos of, say, a shirt, say pants, or a hat and gloves, and you can take those photos and you can pull them together as a single image presented to the end user. And again, it's important that you're taking into account their likes, the information that you have about them. And it may be, like I said earlier, maybe it's their favorite sports team. Maybe it's their, the typical color that they're buying, with lipstick, stuff like that. And you're incorporating that into the content. And it's not just for a brand like Stitch Fix or Trunk Club or somebody like that to use. That could be used by any type of brand to pull together not just the one thing that you want them to buy, but multiple items, the whole outfit that you want them to buy. So you can drive even larger shopping carts and higher sales just from them buying those elements together. So that type of customization, that type of personalization, can happen. It can happen on the site. It can happen, the advertising that's being incorporated as well. But in terms of making it relevant, it's so important. You need to be taking into account, not just the likes, but seasonality of it. Like if they're shopping around the winter time, making sure that you're presenting imagery related to that season, the weather, even in their local currency, their local language. All these elements are really need to come together and are really important to providing an acceptable experience, to the end user. So
Yeah.
there's a lot that
Yeah.
comes in. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very nuanced. I could imagine if you wanted to do it successfully and in a way that resonates.
Yeah.
So this ties back to the overarching, I guess, key to success, which is, you need the right content. If you have content, awesome, but it needs to scale, right? It needs to be reliable. It needs to be, top performing. You mentioned some great insight around the importance of performance, especially from an e-commerce perspective. So how can brands and retailers best strike that balance, right? Ensure they have that rich content, apply it, personalize it, contextualize it, but keep that scalability in check.
Right. So quite definitely it's always a challenge, right? Making sure that you're driving these rich, highly engaging experiences, this super large, heavy content. Of course, a large video, is large in size. Same thing with any sort of large imagery. So definitely you need to make sure that you're driving that fast performance, because the consumer's devices, whether it be their latest iPad, their latest phone, or whatever, they're getting faster, and they're advertising those devices as faster. There's a 5G connection now and super fast, lightning fast website speeds, right? So they're setting their expectations that everything has to be fast. Great. And now you're also trying to push down this super large, rich file, and just kind of like this clash of interest, right? So you definitely need to make sure that you're incorporating the right file formats, and you're basically encoding the content in such a way that's decreasing the file size down as much as possible by maintaining that visual quality, the fidelity of the colors that are in there as well. And you can think about this as yet another form of personalization. So you need to do this for every end user out there, and you need to take into account their specific situation. So you need to optimize it for their connection, optimize it for their device, their browser, their screen, the orientation of the screen as well. So all of this needs to be taken into account from an optimization standpoint. And so you really want to set up your architecture to cater to those elements: the device, the connection speed, location, etc. It's a lot to think about, but it's why there are services out there that can really help automate that, and help optimize the content for them.
Yeah. And I know
Yeah.
Cloudinary helps a lot of brands and retailers through this process. So, I mean, what does it look like? What are some of the, key takeaways or best practices that you try to walk these companies through as they try to get all this fantastic content out to market?
Yeah, so I mean, Cloudinary is all about media, and we're all about highly engaging visual experiences that convert. And I think that's the key thing, just making sure that you're providing, that experience to the end users, and then driving to the goals that you're trying to meet. And we provide capabilities around the creation, organization, and the optimization of content, no matter where or how it's consumed. So, we can help, with the consumption of that content all over the world. And we focus on any type of content. So like I said, imagery, videos, 3D, 360 video, AR, VR, all of it. And we're constantly keeping up with the different formats, the different technologies that can be used by brands on their websites, helping them bring that content to life online. That's what we're really doing. And that's what we're helping drive. So.
That's great, Gary. Well, it really comes out and rings loud and clear. Just hearing you talk about content trends and best practices. Content people are my kind of people, so it was really great to chat with you and dig into some of the trends and best practices that you've been seeing.
Awesome. I appreciate the time. It was a lot of fun having the conversation. I really enjoyed it. And honestly, the times ahead are really exciting for us and for a lot of brands out there. So there's more to come, and it's great it'll be interesting to see the innovations, that come to life out
Yeah.
there. So.
Absolutely. We're already seeing a few blips of brands doing some really cool things with content,
Yeah.
even creators, right? Some of these creators are so advanced. I don't know how they have the time or the skill set to create such incredible things just through an Instagram app. So
Yeah,
time will tell how this space evolves.
that's right. I agree.
And to all of you watching, I hope you found this conversation interesting, even a bit intriguing if you're trying to build out your content arsenal or want to integrate more of that personalization and curation that Gary was talking about today. Hopefully this gives you a good starting point. And if not, if you're hungry for more content, feel free to go to the Retail ThinkTank site and hub. We have so many great resources, including some from Cloudinary, including a few success stories and best practice guides, ebooks, all of that good stuff. So you have some tactical insights to put some of these ideas into action. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and we'll see you next time. Take care.